Hello and welcome to another episode of the AI workshop, and today we're gonna dive deep into web scraping and web crawling. So you're gonna be able to do that locally and using your N8N agent. So here's our final flow, which will be ingesting directly a URL directly into our Qdrant database here. And we'll be using our N8N agent to scrape that into the database, and then we'll be able to use it directly. So for this example, we'll be using Crawl4AI. So Crawl4AI is a local scraper which can replace Apify, for example, and you can crawl any web page locally using Playwright then. So you can install this using pip, as you can see here, but for the sake of this example, we're going to use Docker. First thing, we're going to clone this repository, and we'll go into our SSH, into our server, and we'll do git clone and clone this. Since I already have it, I'm just going to cd into it, and we can see that we have many files in here. One of them is .env.txt, so this will be our initial file. And you can see that it contains basically the placeholders for our APIs. So what we'll do is copy this into .llm.env. So let's edit it then. .llm.env. And here we have to place our Grok API key, OpenAI, Anthropic. You can also use Gemini, DeepSeek, and many others. We're going to go into Grok, which offers free API keys, and we'll just create one for this example. Verify, and we can submit this, and we can copy and then go back in here, paste it, and just for the sake of showing you how to add other API keys, you can add Gemini API key the same way. This is probably better, and you can use that. And have a look at our Docker compose here. So you can see we can use DeepSeek, Anthropic, Grok together, Mistral, and Gemini. And our ports will be exposed to 11.235. So, and now we can run docker compose up -d. That will download the Crawl4AI image. Once this is done, we'll have our server running locally. The download is complete. We should have our server running here. So we can see that Crawl4AI has been running and is accessible at this port. So now we'll jump into our workflow here. And so basically what I will share with you this workflow, and it can be called via webhook. So we'll say that this is our webhook here that we're gonna call, and we're gonna use the post method for this, and we're gonna expect basically a URL from this. So when we get a query, this URL will be sent to our server here, which is in this port, and we're gonna call the /crawl with a post method. We're using a header authentication. This is to secure our call. You can do without. We're gonna send a body containing JSON type, and we're gonna define the below field as URL. This URL will be from, we can get that from the query itself, and we can just drag and drop that. I like to leave the priority to 7, and we can also specify the output format if you want. And we're gonna also activate the follow redirects. And once we execute this, it should give us a task ID, and this task ID will be, we will add a wait node here, and I've done this through 5 seconds, but you can make it more, depending actually on your machine. And this second node will go and request that task ID. So we have our server /task/ our task ID. And you can see it appears here. So if we test this, should be processing at first, and then if the task is done, you should see the data here. Once this data is done, this response is set back to the webhook, and also we will go and insert that into our database. So we'll just take the markdown with citations here. You can also choose the markdown alone, but I chose the markdown with citations. And so if we test this step, it should give us our output that will be pushed into the database. And you can see that the output is well formatted in MD format, in markdown format. And this is very easily recognizable by the AI itself. So last step is we insert this into our Qdrant database. Just choose basically your database that you want to insert to, and then we can test that up, and this data will be directly inserted into our database, clean and ready to use. We can also configure an agent to do that. And here I have a demo of an agent where I have configured a HTTP node. I like to give the description of what this tool does. So use this to scrape a web page, use the JSON as below, provide the URL to scrape. It will scrape the URL and ingest the content to a Qdrant N8N DB. So this is the full description of our tool, for HTTP call here. And for this URL, we're just gonna go and copy it from this webhook and paste it here. But since this is local, I replaced the first part with 172.17.0.1. We don't need to put the external IP here. And for the authentication, I have set up a generic header authentication. You can basically just create a new credential and say, this is your webhook test header authentication. You can set the authorization here as a name, and you can basically switch to expression just to show what you're typing, and then basically you can enter the API that you want to use. And this API on the other end So let's say we save this. We need to refresh. And then we can come here and just choose that API key we just created. So that was the webhook test. And now we have a secure connection between these two flows. This is very useful when you have your URL exposed to the internet here, like here. And otherwise anyone could trigger this workflow, and then better keep it secure. And so from here we can go to our agent now. And we can ask it to scrape, and we'll say https docs.n8n.io. We can see that here our agent is running, and if we go to the executions, we should see a new execution ongoing. And there we go. Now we got our response. Okay, so now that we have our tool working, we can also add the Qdrant database as a tool for our agent to access that. So we'll use retrieve documents, and we'll say N8N DB as a name. This contains documentation about N8N, and we choose our database from the list, and we can set this to 4 or even 10 for this. And now we can add our embedded model. We can choose whatever. Just gonna choose, for simplicity, OpenAI, and text embed in tree small. I'm gonna save this. We can ask it about, what do you know about N8N in your DB? Now this should be able to retrieve data from N8N. And we could also apply this workflow to scrape full websites by getting the sitemap and doing a loop over this workflow. Thank you for following along, and I hope you like this content. If you want more of this, please subscribe, like this video, and comment with all your questions. So I'll see you soon in the next video, and keep rocking. Cheers.